But I did volunteer work as a teenager, and growing up in the church, you know, you're involved in everything outreach related, especially if you're, you know, the child of a minister.
Okay.
So you're put in everything. But I actually, when I was in seminary, I have got a bachelor's in urban and global economic development. So that was an interest to me, but I was so focused on film and doing film production and doing plays and stuff like that. I kind of was like, let me just get a degree so they'll leave me alone. And but I'm gonna still do you know, what I want to do. And I did for a lot of time in Atlanta, did a lot of freelance video work. So when I moved back to Birmingham, I was thinking, oh, let me figure out what I can do, and ended up falling into a job that had me out in the community, and actually I actually really enjoyed it. And so I just kind of continued to pursue that. And then when I got to the Alice Stevens Center, they were like, hey, you need to be in our educational outreach for the schools and in the community. And then it marries the two things that I love, art and, you know, doing community work. So it's almost kind of like a perfect marriage.
Yeah, right. So actually you've been doing community work since you've been a teenager. I mean, consistently. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Would you call that a passion?
I like people. Okay. I love people. So that's probably more of the passion is I really enjoy people, and I like to know what makes people tick, you know, why you made that decision, or why are you still here? Why did you travel? I just like learning about people. Yeah. So community, you get to meet so many different types of people. So that just makes it a plus, because you never know who you're when you're out in the community.
Yeah, right. You sound a lot like me. I mean, my bachelor's degree is in communication studies, and the reason that it is I love finding out what makes people, what makes them think. You know,
right?
You think how you think, why you act how you act, what motivates you to do certain things, and so that's why I do this blab, okay, to find out what it is that makes you tick and why. And you know, I follow you on Facebook. Are you able to hear me? I know there's an echo, but are you able to understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Very good. Okay. So I'll follow you on Facebook, and I know that you did last year. Was it last year you went to Selma, or the year before?
Last year.
It was last year. Yeah, and that had to be fantastic.
It was really probably, you know, and this is crazy, you know, growing up the child of a minister, but that was probably the most spiritual experience I have ever had. So we literally walked the 5 days, day for day, 50 years later, that they marched from Selma to Montgomery.
Really? Was there a real feeling of unity? I mean, you know, sometimes you can have an experience and in your head, okay, so 50 years later, and sometimes you can have an experience. I mean, I can imagine taking that walk and sort of seeing myself 50 years ago, you know, in that place.
It was kind of surreal. Like the first day, I think nobody, because what they did was they designed, the National Parks Association designed a walk-in classroom. And so they wanted it to be it was the 50th anniversary, but they wanted to kind of give some, I guess you can say, unknown knowledge of the march that your average person doesn't know about, in addition to actually marching the entire route until you got to the 5th day, which was kind of the culmination and the celebration of it. So the first day, everybody kind of arrived in Selma, kind of like, okay, what did we sign up for? What is this? And, you know, and they wanted to mirror it so much that only 300 people were chosen. What most people don't realize is that like 1,000 people actually left Selma marching, but Dr. King only had a permit to take 300.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
So they just only chose 300 people to participate. So after marching through Selma and getting into Montgomery, I think Whitehall was the first place we hit. Just learning the stories about, you know, David Hall and his family and the sacrifice he made. And it's like, okay, this was a little deeper than, you know, because you're thinking about this is Lowndes County, Selma area, 1965. You know, and it was, you know, now it's houses everywhere. You have lights on the highway. They had none of that 50 years ago. So we're talking about people actually dealing with sleeping in the dark And then one of the things we realized real quick was on the second day of the march, it rained the entire day. So we literally marched in the rain. But what we found out was that it had rained the second day of the march 50 years ago.
Get out.
So, yeah. So doing that, everybody was like, whoa, this is deeper than
I know.
just this march. So, I mean, from then on, it was just kind of this bonding experience of getting to know people. And it was people from the Bahamas, Puerto Rico, California, you name it, people from somewhere, everywhere. And it was extremely unified, and we're just, you know, it was loving when you got people who are like, oh, dang, I forgot my lunch today. And people are taking pieces of their lunch to help somebody make up a lunch for them.
Right.
Just that outpouring of love to everyone that we experienced. And it was just an amazing experience. We created our own closed Facebook group on the last day so we could all stay in contact.
Well, tell me about actually walking across that bridge. I mean, was that like the one? I know the entire experience was worth it. Was that like the icing on the cake, taking that walk across the bridge?
It was very spiritual because I had actually took some kids down for Bloody Sunday like a couple of weeks prior. So I was like, okay, I kind of already crossed the bridge. So, okay, I'm crossing the bridge again. But going through it, and actually after they recreated a mass meeting for us. So we went through the whole mass meeting, singing the spirituals. And then it was like, okay, now it's time to march and start this march. And so as we were walking, it's, you know, you kind of like, nobody really knows each other. So it's kind of like, oh, how you doing? You know, but the closer we got to the bridge, it kind of became extremely surreal.
Was it emotional?
It was very emotional to where it took some people quite a few minutes to even cross over the bridge because people were just like, whoa, like, you know, you have Bloody Sunday, you know, these people were marching, not knowing what was going to meet them, if they were going to make it through the entire 5 days or not, you know. So it was that moment of, wow, this is deep. You know, this is basically blood-stained concrete, you know, that we're walking on, you know, and just that whole emotion of, I'm able to do this freely with the police actually guarding us and protecting us for the experience, where they were kind of out there on their own, just trusting God to make sure, you know, they made it through to the end. So it was extremely spiritual.
Did you go with a group last year?
Did what?
Did you just go by yourself, or did you go with a group?
I went by myself. Like, you had to actually fill out an application.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so there was kind of an approval process?
Yeah. Okay. So you had to put down like what you did as occupation, why you wanted to participate, what you hope to get out of it. And then it went through, you know, their, I guess, committee of choosing people, and you got chosen based off of that. Now, you could apply as a group, and there was a few professors that had applied to bring students. And I think it was maybe 2 or 3 professors that actually were able to bring students with them. And then they had a section of students that were able to just apply themselves as students.
Okay. And did you go again this year?
I'm sorry?
Did you go again this year?
I did go down this year. I didn't get to stay the whole time because of my cousin got married. So I was down there for a little bit, and then I had to rush back.
Right. I noticed that young Trisha was there. Did you all go together?
Yeah, we are all actually in a program. We did Alabama Organizing Project. Me and young Trisha didn't do it the same year, but we're all alumni. So we were all down there for a meeting, and we just transitioned into the Selma activities.
Okay. Did that experience change your life in any way?
I think participating in that, it really kind of gave me, and I'll say this, I had just started reading Dr. King's The Measure of a Man and From Chaos to Community. And it really kind of put me in a place of really kind of getting an understanding of where he was really coming from. I think a lot of people look through history and say, oh, well, Dr. King was extremely passive, or, you know, he's always preaching forgiveness and he's always preaching love and turn the other cheek. But you know, to me, going through that experience, hearing the different stories that you don't really hear, it was like, no, that took a lot of strength to actually operate in that manner. Because if you had people out fighting, Sheriff Clark and the police of Selma or in Montgomery, the protesters would have been seen as antagonists. And so, that's our reason to respond, because they're retaliating against the police. But to see that, no, this is how we're going to walk this out. It was like, we got to do a better job of making sure we're teaching our young people how to handle situations, whether it be dealing with discourse, not understanding your government, not pleased with how your police force in your community. It's a way to handle that. And I kind of really saw that, participating in that, because it's like, you can't always, it's almost a pick your battles. In your battles, you can't always fight fire with fire.
Well, talking about students and kids, I mean, they get Black History Month, okay? Yeah. And they write that book report, or they pick that person that they write about. And so they do this once a year, I mean, they may do it more often. Of course, I haven't been in school in a long time. So, and then when I was, and so, we had a teacher that was very much Black empowerment. But so outside of the classroom and outside of school, where do they get this history from? Young people.
And the thing is, if they're not interested in investigating themselves, then they don't get it, and it's like, you have to create these opportunities for them to get their history and experience it. I remember in school, we really didn't, I went to a predominantly white high school. So we had pretty much a race fight every February.
Really?
Because the white kids didn't want to go to the Black History Month program, and it would always turn into a big issue. But I just grew up as somebody, because I'm interested in learning about people. I kind of always investigated myself, and then when you had shows for me growing up, like A Different World and things like that, that's putting things out there. It's like, oh, I wonder who that person was. Let me go research it. So that was kind of me. But there's not readily information in the schools for kids to partake in, so when I work with young people, if I'm doing summer programs or something, I always try to make it a point to make sure we either go to the Civil Rights Institute, we go to 16th Street, or, today we're going to learn about this person, and, let's talk about, what the sacrifice they made so that you can just freely do XYZ right now.
Right.
Or at least in my interaction with kids, hey, you need to know this. And then I go speak to a lot of college students and, some are, predominantly white schools. So I make it a point to say, hey, this is not just Black history, it's your American history.
It's American history.
So you need to know this history. So you know what? You need to be knowledgeable. Go get a book, go read up, we love what Dr. King and Rosa Parks and people like that have sacrificed. But there's so many other Black leaders over the course of time that is like, you should know about. And so I'm always pumped in, understand and learn your history.
Okay. Well, just a side note, this broadcast is basically unscripted, so it is guided by our conversations. So, I have a few questions I want to ask you, and I may or may not get to them. But just based on what you said, do you think that they'll ever expand Black history education beyond February?
I would hope that they will. And I think the more white people that become enlightened, like I really got a lot of hope last year as I'm marching with, these people who, don't deal with the same thing I have to deal with as being a Black person, but are like, I want to learn, I want to understand, and how can I use my privilege to help you or to help Black or people in color in general. So I have hope in interacting with people like that, because it's like, okay, if you can understand it and you can get to know me, then if you're in a position of power, even though we don't live in the same city or state, you can open up a door for somebody else, person of color. So I have that hope that eventually we'll get there. But, I just say I have that.
We're not there yet. Okay. Yeah. For those listening, let me just say, if you want to jump in and take a seat, join the conversation, you can do that. Also, if you want to ask a question rather than just typing in a statement, here on the side. It'll do flash view, and then ask your question. It will pop up on the other side of the screen, and then we can see it better. So you are welcome to ask questions. But I think you had let's see here. Was it Selma? Was it from Bridge to the Ballot? Is that what it was? Mm-hmm. What was that?
Okay, so I've been working with Rev Birmingham. They've been doing some revitalization efforts in Ensley. Mm-hmm. And so we have the use of the old West Precinct now. So they have moved over into 5 Points.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, okay. So they're in 5 Points now. And so the West Precinct is empty in downtown Ensley. So they approached me about doing some work with them. And I said, one of the things we don't have on the western side of Birmingham is entertainment. Mm-hmm. So why not let's do a cinema house? Let's see how that goes. And so I love documentaries. I saw the Selma Bridge to the Ballot at Sidewalk last year, and I kind of hosted the discussion afterwards. Mm-hmm. And I got a chance to talk to the director, told him, hey, I do community outreach. I would love to show this film in my community. And he was like, sure, and he sent me a copy of it. And so we did that.
Excuse me.
And I basically had a panel discussion on voting and why voting is so important. And we had probably about 45 people that showed up.
And so the panel discussion, how many were on the panel?
It was actually 4. A young lady that works with Alabama Arise, a local attorney, and 2 activists, community activists. And it was kind of, I tried to balance it out as much as possible where I had, 2 Black people, 2 white people. Right. But we actually ended up having a real good discussion. Because I think sometimes people, don't really focus. They focus on voting on the presidential election. But when it comes to our local city elections, people don't turn out in the numbers that they need to. So in saying, we know we need to vote for this national election, be aware of who the candidates are. But at the time we was getting ready to vote for all the judges were being, going through their campaigning. And I was like, this is how you research. This is how you find out who to vote for, what their platform is, XYZ. This is how you find out where your polling station is. Okay, you've moved. Did you transfer over, your polling station? So it was kind of covering those basics, but then discussing why it is so important to actually exercise your right to vote.
So we have politicians that, let's say Birmingham, and each politician has, excuse me. Okay, hang on a second. I'm so sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
I'm about to water something here. Next time I will. So we have politicians who have their own causes, and they stand up for those for their district or their community. But is voting down as far as you're concerned? Is it down because there's no activism? And does it need to be activism in order to get people to move? I mean, they already want to vote.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a combination of a few things. I think activism is needed, especially when it comes to issues. I'm not necessarily a fan of pushing candidates necessarily, but I think people should be educated on who's out there running and who's voting. A lot of times I meet people who say, oh, I just vote Democratic. And it's like, well, you don't know. I mean, it may be somebody on that Democratic ticket that does not have your best interest at heart, but because you just check that one box, is like, oh, you got whoever you get. There needs to be activism on the sense of informing people. And I think some of it has to be kind of a, what is my best interest? I think sometimes there has to be a level of responsibility where you say, this is affecting me. The city council affects me. The police chief affects me. So am I really aware of what they believe and support, and taking that responsibility to kind of inquire and find that out? This past election, what was it, March 1st? I had so many people texting me and calling me. It was like, okay, who are you voting for? I'm like, I know who I'm voting for.
Right.
But did you research, the people? And it's like, no, I'm about to vote for whoever I saw signs for. It's like, really? Come on. There has to be a level of responsibility of saying, okay, let me see who is out there.
Yeah. Well, speaking of somebody call and ask you, like who you're voting for, unless you're out there campaigning, you're campaigning, you're supporting a candidate, you might be in some discussion about the candidate, but, in a sense, asking somebody who they're voting for, and I'm a little older than at least you, probably Sandra too, and yeah. So that kind of saying, how much money do you make?
Right.
Who I'm voting for is who I'm voting for. I have that choice, and I don't have to, reveal that to you. When I get that, of course, there's no curtain anymore when you go in the booth. But what I'm behind that curtain,
exactly.
It's kind of my business.
Yeah.
Even though we engage in discussions about the candidates, I don't know if that's a question that I ask anybody.
Right. And, and I also think that there needs to be something done, because I think the polls are now more intimidating. Because if you go vote, you got like 30, 40 people standing out there trying to push flyers in your hand.
Yeah.
And I think that, and I met some women this past election for March 1st where they were like, I just got so nervous with all these people coming at me with flyers, I just turned around and went home. And these are women in their, 70s, late 70s. That was like just too overwhelming for them. And so I'm like, you shouldn't have to feel that uncomfortable. Go and vote and exercise your right with somebody pushing paper in your hands, So I think sometimes that something needs to be addressed, whether they have to be so far back.
Well, that's already the rule. Now they already have to be so far back. I mean, so how far back can we push them? I mean, because when I went to vote, in March 1st, and they tried to hand me a flyer, I was like, no, thank you, I don't need one. And I sensed that there was some kind of attitude because I rejected it. But this mindset, if I'm walking up the stairs to vote, okay? Right. If I don't know who I'm going to vote for now,
right,
this piece of paper is not going to change my mind. So to me, it's kind of a nuisance.
It is very much so a nuisance, because it's like, I mean, if you was handing me, a Krispy Kreme donut or something, I might stop and talk to you, about who you pushing.
Yeah.
But it's like, you end up walking in with like 30, 40 pieces of paper.
Yeah, right. Right.
It's like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
It's like if this person hasn't done their due diligence with their campaign of getting people to say, okay, I'm going to vote for this person, you throwing paper at me on my way in is not going to change the scenario. Because what's happening, we're typically running in from before, like I went before work. So I'm up at 6:30 getting ready to run in and vote before I have to go to work. Or you got people rushing from work or using their lunch break. And I think it's just I think it's made that whole democratic process, a little off-putting for some.
Yeah. I wish they would answer that. I used to take a little sheet of paper, just not to be rude.
Right.
But, on the other hand, I think it's rude that you stumble on this paper on the way in. For me to get inside the building and put it in the top 13.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Let's plant a tree. Exactly. When after you vote, you get that sticker that says I voted. Maybe on the end they can give me a sticker that says I'm on my way in to vote. And you just swap them out when you get in the inside.
Exactly.
That's what they can do. And see, Janet says our church has established a platform called the Gatekeepers to help people be better. That's really good. That's really good. Janice, I wish you would hop back on and tell us about what that involves. If you want to know a little bit more about that and get re-involved in that conversation. If you feel like you're welcome to come back on and take a seat and tell us about that. But so also I read that you're this summer you're teaching some class.
What
I read on your Facebook page that you're teaching a class. And what is this? Is that a graphic institute? What is that?
Oh, the Satyagraha Institute. Oh,
what is that?
Last year was just so much going on. So I found out about this Nonviolence Institute. It's located in South Dakota. Last year was its pilot year, and it's basically an institute that's based off of the teachings of Gandhi and Dr. King, how to deal with activism in a nonviolence manner. So it was a 14-day institute up in the Black Hills in South Dakota. No technology, no nothing. And I'm a couch potato, so I was like, oh my gosh, no TV for 14
days. Right.
But it was actually real awesome. It was about 25 people. I mean, literally from across the world. We had a lady that flew in from Nigeria, a guy that came in from China. One of the main teachers was from India. We had some people that came in from Mexico, and then people throughout the U.S. And I mean, you know, the first couple of days, you know, of course, everybody is nice and, oh, well, I believe this way and I believe that way. Around about day 4 or 5, you know, when you sharing cabins with people and now somebody is talking about an issue that you're passionate about and they don't share that passion, then that's when it get real.
Really?
And so now we got to talk about, okay, now this is what we're talking about. You have to deal with this, you know, people not seeing your vantage point in a non-violent manner and still be, you know, a thoughtful leader. So it really kind of puts you in a position of like challenging, you know, okay, why do I believe this? Why am I so passionate about this issue? We had one lady who I just love. Her name is Claire from Tennessee, and she's big on like military and the things that they're doing and the military being more transparent. Like she has protested standing in front of trains, and I'm like, I ain't doing all that. I support you, but I'm not going to be standing there with you locking arms. But we were discussing a particular issue and she got angry. And I mean, and we were like, okay, calm down. And she was like, no, you don't understand. The military is doing this, and this. And I'm like, okay, like I really probably should be a little bit more up on the military, what they're doing. But, you know, I'm like, I'm the arts person. I'm the youth person. You know, that's the stuff that I'm into.
Right.
I could understand her frustration once she kind of calmed down. And like, okay, we can disagree, but let's not be disagreeable.
Yeah, so right.
Frustrated in a discussion, who are you turning off in order to inform them? So it really kind of puts you in a place of learning, you know, self-discipline. You know, everybody doesn't have to see this the way I do. I need to respect their opinion. Right. Just like I expect them to respect mine. So while we were there was a teacher that couldn't come. So I had some of the books by Dr. King that I was reading. So one of the guys over was like, are you versed enough in Dr. King to discuss him? And I was like, probably about as much as your average Black person, but you know, I'll do my best. I know what I know. Exactly. So I kind of touched on, you know, Dr. King, his life, and since Black Lives Matter was what was big last year, Black Lives Matter and policing in communities of color. And I ended up pulling some video together and showing them, I think it was a clip from Melissa Harris Perry's show. And she was naming all the young men who had been murdered by police. And so one gentleman that was there, him and his wife were there, and they were from Kansas. And he was like I just heard, he was like 20 names I've never heard of before. And he said, I feel embarrassed because I'm that disconnected.
Who are these 20 names?
And if, you know, like Tamir Rice, you know, Stephen Crawford, you know, all these young men who had been murdered by the police, and he hadn't heard any of them. And so he was like, I feel embarrassed. And what we found out, the reason he felt embarrassed is because years ago, him and his wife adopted a Black boy. So they have a son that's Black, and they were like, we're too disconnected from this. And we have these grandchildren. And he was like, I need to do better as a grandfather. Understand what my son and what his children are dealing with. So, you know, we had a real good discussion, and so the people over it, they asked if I would return and do some more teaching on, you know, the legacy of Dr. King. What does it mean today in relation to the Black Lives Matter So I'm kind of preparing that curriculum now, and that institute is in June. No, actually,
there or here?
It's in South Dakota, and I'm wrong. Not June, August is when it is. And so I'm actually working with them to see about bringing an institute to Birmingham in 2017.
Okay. So the institute is that something that is that a physical place? Is that just a program that can be held anywhere, or is what is it?
It could be anywhere. They just so I think the thing is they want to put everybody in a place where you got to interact together and you don't have any distractions. So they chose the Black Hills. And so I don't even remember seeing that many Black people.
Really?
When we got there, I mean, the whole airport, I was like, okay, either this is a real messed up trick or this is actually going to end up being a good experience. But it ended up being great. Everybody was nice. And I didn't realize how many natives are in the Dakotas. And then they brought in different speakers that were local. They brought in of the Lakota people. And he talked to us. He spent 2 days with us, and just hearing how they do in their tribe and how they value community, their families, their elderly. I mean, it was just mind blowing. So it was like, oh my gosh, this is stuff that other community activists and just other people in general need to hear. So that was one of my reasons for wanting to stay involved and hopefully get the institute in Birmingham in 2017.
Do you get, and I'm glad you said the word activist, because, in your resume that you sent me, your bio, social media where I follow you, I never see that word. And because I follow you, I consider you an activist.
Yeah.
So do you consider you an activist?
I'm becoming more acceptable.
You said you haven't been wanting to call yourself that?
No, because I think I'm kind of probably more hard on myself. I feel like I could be doing so much more sometimes. So I don't feel like I'm as free, probably because I do have a 9-to-5.
Right.
I don't feel like I'm as free to kind of really be in the community how I would like to be. But everybody keeps referring to me as a community activist. I was like, maybe I just need to accept it.
Look, when we get off this broadcast, I want you to go straight to Facebook and put in, my name is T. Marie King and I am an activist. Okay, Sergeant Janet, connect with Marie on Facebook, T. Marie King, and we're gonna make sure that she says that I am T. Marie King and I am an activist.
I will do it.
Because you are. And so when I read the bio, I thought, okay, she doesn't have that on there. But, a lot of stuff that you post, you can really feel your passion. Like the other day, you were talking about how, all the murders that are going on in the city and this push for ministers, to either give out Bibles or get out to community in some kind of way. I mean, that's the responsibility of the church. We want to get them to do that.
Yeah. And really, because I'm looking by when you deal with young people, you're seeing things from their perspective. And this young man that was killed a week ago today, I spent 6 years with this kid. And he was truly, truly a good kid. I really think it was a case of he was either set up or he was in just the wrong place at the wrong time, because he was genuinely a good kid.
Is this the person that went to the party? They went to a party?
Yeah, he went to a party with some friends, ended back up at a friend's apartment, and, he ended up dead. Right. And I'm like, now this is a good kid, and if this can happen to a good kid, we got some big issues. And so it angered me, because I'm like, this kid has so much potential. We had got him off to college. He was working regularly. He's not out slanging drugs or anything. He's going to his job because he wanted to purchase him a car. Right. Going and working and, planning to go back to school in the fall. And we're celebrating, you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. We have input all this stuff into him.
Poured into him.
Exactly, literally 6 years, and I'm like, really? And I was like, no, we got to do something. Something needs to be done. So, I got with a friend of mine and I was like, we need to start having a discussion because I don't know, this is getting on my nerves. So on the 24th of March, we're having a discussion on how we can work together as a community and stop the violence at Woodlawn United Methodist Church. And so we're just going to invite the community out to come and participate, and hopefully somebody in the crowd or maybe on the panel will have a suggestion on, oh, we can start doing this, or maybe we should try this.
When is that?
March 24th, 6 o'clock at Woodlawn United Methodist Church.
Okay.
And I'll make sure you get the invite and all of that.
Okay.
But we got to have this discussion. So, you know, I'm working on getting somebody from the police department to be on the panel. I got a pastor that has committed to coming out to the panel, and some other community leaders. And it's like, we got to address this. Our kids are dying. You know, the day he was killed a week ago today, two other guys were killed around the same time. And, you know, all of them were under the age of 25.
Right.
That's a problem that needs to be addressed.
It's a huge problem.
Yeah.
Well, what would you say is you know, and this, I might be asking the obvious, but what is the biggest motivation for you to do this? Your activism. What is the biggest? Is there a single motivation? Because I know you have several things that you're involved in, but can you tie it all into one thing, one motivation?
I think my biggest motivation in the work that I do is, a few years ago, you know, I had some real serious health issues. And once I kind of got back on my feet, went through surgery, all that stuff, kind of got where I needed to be, and back where I, you know, had started back driving my car because I couldn't drive for 3 months. I was involved in a head-on collision.
Okay.
And it was just like, okay, I'm too young to die. I got too much in me. Right. And so I decided then I refused to die, not giving out all the things that God had put on the inside of me. You know, because I've been reading since I started reading. I would try to read as much as possible. You know, I hear friends that say, well, you know, I'm cutting back on TV or social media so I can read. And I actually probably read at just as much as I watch TV. Because I have maybe 4 books I'm reading now, but I'm reading 2 or 3 chapters out of each one a night.
Really?
So, yeah. So I'm, and then some books that I want to read that I know I don't have the time for, I get it on audio and I listen to it as I'm driving, going into work or going home from work. You know, because I'm not big on knowledge. You know, so I was like, I know God has put a lot of different gifts on the inside of me. So the last thing I want to do is return to God with all the stuff that he put on the inside of me. So my thing has always been, you know, as I learn, and you see that from watching my Facebook page, you know, as I learn different stuff or I get a revelation about something, I'm like, oh yeah, y'all need to know this.
Yeah, Sandra says she do that too. What do you mean, Sandra? Reading 2 or 3 books at a time? she said she got an eye on you. She can watch your Facebook page for that huge announcement, okay? She said she does that. I have a hard enough time getting through one book, and I try the audio, you know, but so the audio will be on, and my mind is 100 different things. I have to start it over 10, 15 times. I'm like, forget it. I can't, even on the drive to work, my mind just drifts. Yeah. You know, if I'm not looking at the words and reading to keep me engaged, and I'm going to try the audio again. I'm going to try. Do you subscribe to Audible?
Everybody keeps telling me I need to.
Well, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're ordering stuff?
The library has become my friend again. Okay. So I'll check out 6, 7 books. The Southside Library, I come in, they be like, hey, what's going on? What you picking up today? Yeah. Well, that's cool. Check my books out. But then I do purchase a lot of books, but I just like holding it, reading it, being able to highlight it, you know, and knowing I can flip back to that. That's just one of the things I like.
Now, you know, Audible is $9.99, and I think you can listen to all the audio books that you want to. Is that right, Janet? I know I was speaking for a minute, but because I couldn't, you know, stay with the recording for longer than a minute, you know, and then even with books, I was like, it's gone up, $14.95 a month. You can read as many books as you want to, Janet. Is that right? So, you know, I might give it another try because I got 3 books per month. Okay, well, shoot, if you could listen to a book up in 2 hours or 2.5 hours, still got a whole month left. I know that's
right. That might not necessarily be a good thing.
Yeah. No, I'm not doing that. I'm going to the library like Marita. I got a library.
Right. Exactly.
And I love the library. God, yeah. Especially the main library.
Yeah,
I can spend like a half a day or a day in there if I didn't have some other stuff to do. I love the library. And when I go and check out books, I leave with a stack of books. Okay? Exactly. But here's a problem.
It's reading all of them.
Reading none of them.
But it's a start.
I start reading, and then I see a spot. Oh, that sounds good right there. I'm gonna read that when I go to it. And I always say I never get past page 10, right? I would do better. So you can't read them all. You can buy anything that you want. Now I do. I like having that physical book too. Okay. And I download books from Amazon to Kindle, and I never finished it. But I have a book that I'm reading on Kindle now, and I'm realizing the benefit of the highlighting. Okay, where I can't do that with a book. Okay, right. I can click on something and it shows me everything that I've highlighted that I feel like is important. So I'm going to get back into doing that. But let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Activist Marie.
I'm gonna put it on
there. So let me ask you this: all of this that you do you have an organization or a nonprofit organization or organization at any time that you're the head of to advance some of the things that you want to do?
Now, me and my mother have a nonprofit together, so we are kind of working on some things to really launch later this year. I journaled the entire march from Selma to Montgomery. So I turned that into kind of an interactive lecture. And so we're looking at how we can market it to kind of get it out to the schools and some of these college campuses to kind of give a bit more information on what the march purpose was, what it's about, and why you need to understand and know about it. So working on, so we got some things that we're working on. So she's kind of at the helm of it. I'm kind of playing that back role right now because I do so many other things in the community. But her plan is that, for me to kind of transition more into the front role in the next couple of years or so. But, so I do have an organization, and sometimes I do workshops on race. And so I put the organization name on that just to get the name out. Yeah.
Do you see yourself transitioning from a full-time job to something full-time, doing what you love? You like your job and what you do because it's, it involves what you like to do. But do you see yourself at any time being an entrepreneur or the head of a nonprofit that's strictly all that you do?
You know what I really want to do? My little dream job would be being like a U.S. ambassador.
So a little dream job.
So that's kind of my little, because I think sometimes we don't. A lot of these messages are not communicated, nationally and globally. That's happening. People get so focused on their section, whether it's North is dealing with issues that the South is not dealing with, and the West is dealing with issues that, a whole nother country is not dealing with. And so sometimes I think there's this huge disconnect, but I would like to do something like that where you can travel and really impact our young people. Sometimes, depending on, I've noticed generationally, some generations, are a little more difficult, to get some things through sometimes. But it's like, if you can really impact these young people and get them thinking differently and seeing, no, you do have something to offer. You are of value, but let me educate you on your history and XYZ, then let's see what you can really do. Let's let you go and let's see how you flourish. So that's probably, you know, I get people, my mom tried to get me into the entrepreneur thing because she does entrepreneurship, but it's really not an interest. Like if I knew I would be taken care of and I could just travel the world and speak to college students and high school students, I would so do that.
Are you on the path to being an ambassador, do you think?
I have no idea, you know, but I would like to know what I need to do to be on that path. You know, I'm not a political person. I'm not really into all of that, you know, craziness that come with politics. But I do think you need people that can say, we need to look at the holistic view of this issue. You know, it's not as easy as, you know, if you're not dealing with something, it's easy to say, oh, they don't need that. Get rid of that. But it's like, okay, yeah, maybe they don't need that version of it. But people can still benefit from XYZ. You know, you hear people complain about stuff like Medicaid. And it's like, well, if you think about when Medicaid was created, it was perfect for the time that it was created. Now, over time, it maybe should have been restructured and things changed. It just never happened. So I would kind of like to be that person in the room that say, I get it. I hear what you're saying, but look at it from this angle. This is why there's, you know, it's like you can look at kids in a under-resourced neighborhood. And like, why are they not doing this? Well, they're not reading because the libraries don't have books, you know, or they're going to a school that's inadequately prepared to educate them. So it's not that they don't want to learn, it's that they don't have the tools to learn properly. You know, and I think when you're disconnected from that, you know, people don't really understand or see the whole holistic view of maybe this is why this is not working.
So when you talk about being an ambassador, and then you mentioned politics. I mean, there are other types of ambassadors.
Yes,
that will allow you to do this. So would you be open to only the political ambassador or ambassadors taking some other routes? Because you're involved in so many things, and I know you're here on a few boards, and so that might be your in. You know, to doing this. You're on the chair. Are you still chair of Young Professional Board?
Yes.
Okay. With Alabama Humanity Foundation, and you're a board member of the Hodges Repertory Theater. Is that here in Birmingham?
Both of them are in Birmingham.
Okay. All right. Good. So that might be your end. You certainly have a presence.
Yes.
Okay. I can very well see that happening. Yeah. So when you have these activities or you're involved in these activities and you pull people in to sort of help you, if people want to get involved with something that you're doing, how would they do that?
Right now, Facebook is the best way to kind of follow me. Facebook and Twitter. I love Twitter. I know a lot of people are not big on Twitter if they're not into news and stuff like that, or entertainment news, but I love Twitter. So normally when I got an event coming up that I'm either spearheading or part of, I'm sharing it on Facebook and Twitter. That's kind of the best ways. And then I'm kind of getting back to that old flyer mentality.
What's that? What did you say?
Exactly. Because I'm like, hey, you know, everybody's not on social media like that. So sometimes you got to put a flyer up, you know, in a restaurant, a coffee shop or something. So somebody say, oh, that's happening, you know. So young professionals don't like that too often, but I'm like, hey, you're closing out a whole demographic.
You are. Okay. So your Twitter handle, is it @TMKing1? Okay, so that's how people can find you on Twitter, and on Facebook is T. Marie King.
Yes.
Okay, so if anyone that's listening today is interested in getting involved in anything that Marie does, you can reach out to her on preferably Twitter, but also Facebook. So I will be reaching out to you as well, because I haven't seen you in a while. I haven't seen you since I was at the Precious Pearls. Are you still involved with Precious Pearls?
I am. You know, we're still we're looking at expanding and getting boys involved and doing some mentoring for boys specifically. So we're trying to really expand, but it's been going good. Watching the girls grow, it's been a lot of fun.
Okay, very good. All right. Well, I want to thank you for coming on.
You're welcome.
And doing this hour. you know, based on what you do, if I was doing what you do, this entire hour, I would have been thinking, Blab. So do you think this could be a platform for you?
You know, when I checked in, because it's been such a crazy week, I felt so bad, you know, not being able to connect. But the week was just so crazy. And when I went through one night and was looking at it, and I was like, it should have been on my radar.
Yeah, well, it is now, right?
Because people keep harassing me to write a book or to do some type of something. Because they're like, oh, you do these little, you know, I do my little afternoon or morning tea, you know, from time to time. And it's like, why don't you write a book? And I'm like, I just don't have time. But something like this, I think this is actually pretty cool. I might have to do it.
Yeah. All those analysts that you talk about, you want to talk about those issues. This is a way that you can flyer those events.
Right, exactly.
You can see that. Yeah, so I think that's coming. Do you Periscope?
I did. I just got into Periscope. So I am enjoying. I can't even remember how. I think I was watching something online with the Schomburg Theater. Mm-hmm. They were like, "Hey, for the people on Periscope," and I was like, "Periscope." I was like, "Wait a minute," you know. Then I had to pull that up. Okay. But I have that on my phone now. So yeah.
Okay.
So
now. You've been introduced to two new platforms. One is Periscope and Blab. I mean, I Periscope sometimes, but I like it because I like the interaction that you don't necessarily get on Periscope. So I really love that.
Yeah. Okay.
Any final words to the people listening about activism, following a passion or a cause, or anything you want to tell people?
You know, my whole thing is I would just like to encourage people to, identify what your purpose is. You know, I think a lot of times people do what they're good at and not necessarily what they're purposed to do. And a lot of times when you pursue what you're good at, sometimes you run into obstacles. But when you're pursuing your purpose, a lot of times it's just like a easy flowing stream. You know, so I try to encourage people to, figure out your passion, figure out your purpose. And sometimes they're the same thing.
Yeah.
But figure out what that purpose is and then work towards pursuing that and exercising that and trusting God, to lead and guide you. My passion was not necessarily what I feel like I was purposed to do, but God just blessed me to where I can kind of merge the two and still utilize art and art expression in my activism work.
Very good. Well, I appreciate that. And for those of you watching, I'm sure you got a taste of it, but really she could have a show at the comedy club if she wanted to, okay? Because she's so funny.
Now, according to my mother, I missed my call.
You can have more than one calling. I told another guest that Donna Brown, she said the people tell her that she missed her calling. She's a minister.
Yeah.
And, she coaches people in relationships, married couples, but now she's launched a comedy career. And so she was saying that people always tell her that she missed her call. And I said, no, you got another call. You're in the ministry, plus now you're a comedian. Yeah. So, you don't have to miss that boat, okay?
That's true. I keep getting friends trying to get me to, I can't think of where it is, but it's somewhere in Birmingham. And they do like stand-up. You can come do stand-up comedy and stuff. And my friends are like, you need to go do it. And I was like, to me, I'm not funny. But I think
that's funny. That's funny right there.
I don't think I'm funny, but my friends are like, no, you're funny. So,
you're funny. You're definitely funny. Sometimes you got like that dry funny, which I love.
That sarcastic British humor.
Yeah. Everybody doesn't get it and appreciate it like they should.
And half the time I'm so serious. It just,
a little different.
Just comes out funny. And my mom told me she went to my kid's funeral with me yesterday, and so I'm doing his eulogy, and he was a big fan of polo. And I made the comment, I said, if there's a polo shop in heaven, I was like, he knows there's really a heaven.
That's right.
So everybody in the room just busted out laughing.
Right.
Minutes. And my mom said, she said, but your face was like so straight and everything. I said, but I had to wait for the room to calm down. But that was him. He wore polo, he was big into it. So I was like, that was his personality. So I think I say a lot of stuff that to me, it may not, I'll be serious, but it just comes out funny. So, hey, who knows?
Hey, you never know. You never know. It may happen accidentally. Right. Well, look, I want to thank you for being on, and just hang on just 1 minute for those of you who are watching, my loyalists. Okay, thank you for always showing up, and Sandra, I do appreciate that, and I would not end this broadcast without saying that. And Marie, and talk about writing. Because you journal, you've already got books. Okay, you know this. You already have books written. Okay, you just need to compile them. Okay, you know that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do know, right?
I need a ghostwriter.
Well, yeah, right. But do you know that I am the co-author on this book that has Very Lazy, I Am Woman book? I'm a co-author. Yeah, I'm a co-author on the I Am Woman book. One of the viewers, Sandra Hill Ward, she is also a co-author in this book. It's I Am Woman, 21 Triumphant Women sharing their journey to embracing truth and their authentic self. The stories may seem to be, or some of them are stories about pain. Okay, but the overriding theme of the song is that having triumphed through that. Okay. So my chapter happens to be called I Had Determined My Worth as Zero. Okay, and so it tells my story about my battle with depression 14 years ago, and how I transitioned outside of that. And there's a number of stories in the book about people who had some difficult times in their life, and how they managed to get through it, how they've grown from that experience, and how they view it now and how they've got beyond it. Okay?
Awesome.
All right, so we're going to wrap up. My name is Sharita Cadenhead. I am the founder of Renew, Refresh, Set Your Life. I am your exit strategist, helping you to exit out of your comfort zone and into your purpose, passion, desires, and goals. That's what I do. Thank you for joining me. Join me on next week at 3 o'clock Central Standard Time. I'll be talking with LaWanda Baker. And we'll be talking about, what some of her goals are, and also some of the comfort zones that she's dealing with, which she needs to overcome in order to pursue the route that she's trying to take. So, Marie, thank you so much. My guest, thank you so much for joining. And we're going to pop off of here, and we're going to go onto Facebook to T. Marie. Okay, and we're going to wait for her to make that pose. Isn't that right, ladies?
Yes.